Let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're taking a look at something absolutely mind-bending. It's an overview of one of the most disruptive and, highly conjectural syntheses in modern physics. We're investigating a theory known as the quiet collapse. Using a speculative research dossier, we're going to piece together fragments from cosmology, biology, and quantum foundations to ask a deeply unsettling question about the actual nature of our reality.
We're investigating a truly radical mystery here. Standard science tells us a pretty straightforward story. The universe cooled, stars formed, biology happened, and eventually we just kind of woke up to observe it all. But we're testing a completely different idea today. What if the exact event that made matter definite in the early universe is actually the primitive ancestor of your own awareness? Like, could the universe becoming real and a mind becoming conscious share the exact same physical mechanism? All right, section one, the cosmic scale. The missing ontological event. To really wrap our heads around this, we got to start at the absolute beginning. We're tracing a proposed chain of dependency. In standard cosmology, we start with quantum fields and primordial fluctuations, right? Then cosmic inflation expands those into massive cosmic structure. But the quiet collapse theory inserts a missing link here, objective reduction. That's an actual physical event tied directly to spacetime geometry. And then, incredibly, it traces that exact same physical mechanism all the way down into biological microtubules, then into our neurons, and finally, consciousness. We are quite literally descending from the grand scale of the cosmos right down into the biology of our own brains.
Take a look at the contrast here. On the left, we've got the absolute predictive triumph of standard cosmology. It perfectly calculates how quantum fluctuations freeze out and become the seeds of galaxies, mapping beautifully onto the cosmic microwave background. But look over on the right. The standard model is entirely missing the ontological interpretation. It's missing the actual physical mechanism of how a hazy, shifting realm of quantum possibilities collapsed to become one single, definite physical reality. It tells us that alternatives stopped interfering with each other, sure, but not how one single outcome was definitively chosen. Moving on to section 2, the mechanism. The collapsed bridge. Now, we really need to view this as a legitimate active research program looking to supply that missing physical symmetry breaking event, rather than, a totally established solution. The crucial point is captured mathematically right here. This is Roger Penrose's proposed instability formula. Penrose argues that a superposition of different mass distributions essentially creates incompatible spacetime geometries. Because general relativity really doesn't like that, the superposition becomes unstable and collapses. But as marked on the screen, please note, this is a model and an inference. It's a proposed mathematical relationship, a lifetime rule, not a confirmed rock-solid law of quantum gravity. Building on Penrose's idea, we get to Paola Zizzi's famously named Big Wow hypothesis, which we clearly mark here as a conjecture. Back in the year 2000, she proposed that an inflation-ending cosmic reduction could be structurally analogous to a theory of human consciousness called ORC-R, Orchestrated Objective Reduction. The quiet collapse theory takes this and asks a massive question. If objective reduction has a proto-experiential aspect, was the universe becoming definite from within actually a primordial experience? We're not talking about a human mind thinking in full sentences here, but a flash of proto-experience completely without memory or intention. Which brings us to section 3, the biological echo, microtubules and ORC-HOH. All right, let's keep our epistemic guardrails firmly in place here to separate hard, proven lab data from what's still missing. Just look at this data. We have a 2023 experiment marked as observed, measuring a totally unexpected 6.6 nanometer electronic energy migration in microtubules, proving they actually support rich quantum physics. Then we have a 2024 study, also observed, where giving rats a microtubule stabilizing drug delayed their unconsciousness under anesthesia by a full 69 seconds. Then there's the MRI entanglement witness, which reported unusual signals tracking consciousness. But notice the marker. This is a disputed inference. It definitely needs independent replication. Finally, a 2026 preprint model shows how geometry and tryptophan networks might control quantum information flow. Long story short, microtubules are absolutely not just inert cellular scaffolding. But look, we have to be completely rigorous here. Finding a physically relevant quantum state in biology is undeniably fascinating, but it doesn't automatically prove consciousness, nor does it validate the entire orchestrated objective reduction chain. The gap between cellular physics and your own conscious mind is a lot narrower than we used to think, for sure, but it is still a very real gap. So, section 4, the accidental academic conspiracy, fragmentation, not a cabal. You might be wondering, if this cross-domain connection between the cosmos and our brains is so profound, why is it basically invisible in mainstream science? Well, when theories cross this many boundaries, people tend to assume the worst. On the left, we have the classic myth, a smoke-filled room where some secret cabal coordinates the suppression of quantum consciousness theories. But on the right, under our narrative marker, is the boring everyday reality. It's a mechanism of institutional fragmentation. Literally, no one is secretly hiding the truth. Rather, the system itself is structured in a way that naturally prevents anyone from assembling the whole picture. Let's actually look at the drivers of this fragmentation. First, researchers are separated by semantic quarantine. Cosmologists say classicalization, while biologists say binding. They literally do not speak the same scientific language. Then we have grant partition, meaning a project spanning cosmic inflation and microtubule biology looks way too weird for any single disciplinary funding panel. There's massive reputational asymmetry. Associating with quantum consciousness can ruin an academic career faster than almost anything else. And no result amplification means a single negative constraint is framed as destroying the whole theory, while positive lab findings just get ignored. Each field sees one tiny piece, but academia's bureaucracy stops anyone from assembling the whole puzzle. Finally, Section 5, falsifiability, surviving the cross-domain crucible. Okay, for this to actually be science and not just, really cool poetry, the theory has to clearly state how it could be entirely wrong. A strong scientific hypothesis must be empirically mortal. Here is exactly how the theory dies. If complete unitary accounts can derive all observed cosmological statistics perfectly without needing any extra collapse dynamics, the theory is dead. If those incredible microtubule effects we talked about prove to be entirely classical, or just too short-lived to matter to the brain, the hypothesis shatters. If standard neural network mechanisms fully explain anesthesia without any quantum intervention, or if that MRI witness is debunked as just normal NMR motion artifacts, the quiet collapse is totally finished. And that leaves us with this pretty sobering final thought. A powerful story is not automatically a true story. The idea that the very first moment the universe became definite was also the first flicker of proto-experience, that is a staggering, beautiful concept. But if the quiet collapse is going to be science rather than mythology, it must eventually survive the ruthless crucible of measurement. It has to survive the sky, the interferometer, and the living neuron. Until then, it remains one of the most brilliant, quietly disruptive questions we could possibly ask. So, will the math and the measurements eventually align? Keep questioning everything, and thank you so much for exploring this with me today.